The most incredible discoveries and untold stories of World War II. Have you ever considered how many secrets World War II still holds, buried beneath the waves or hidden in forgotten corners of the earth? What if we told you that over 15,000 U.S. military aircrew died during training in World War II? More than the total American combat deaths in the Revolutionary War, the War of 1812, and the Mexican-American War combined? This global conflict, spanning continents and defying imagination, continues to unveil its astonishing mysteries, from sunken treasures to improbable alliances, and even animals on the front lines. Get ready to explore our past like never before. Prepare to be amazed. This is the most incredible discoveries and untold stories of World War II, and we're starting deep beneath the waves. Our journey begins with some truly astounding finds, where the ocean has preserved history in its cold embrace. The Silver Treasure Shipwreck. 3 miles under the Atlantic, off the coast of Ireland, the British cargo ship SS Gersopa lay silent for decades. Sunk by a German U-boat in February 1941, it was carrying a massive consignment of silver. Incredibly, over 1,200 silver ingots, totaling approximately 1.4 million troy ounces, were recovered from its depths. This wasn't just any find. It was the deepest and heaviest recovery of precious metals ever from a shipwreck. The British government had already compensated the owners for the loss with £325,000 back in 1941. But Odyssey Marine Exploration was contracted for the recovery, earning 20% of the salvaged value. Of the 85 crew and 2 gunners aboard during the attack, only 1 person survived the sinking. It's a stark reminder of the deadly stakes of wartime shipping and the enduring value of history, even after decades of being lost to the sea. The mega submarine discovery. Imagine a submarine the size of a football field. That's precisely what was found off the coast of Oahu, Hawaii. The Japanese I-400 submarine, one of the largest ever built before the advent of nuclear propulsion, was discovered at a depth of over 2,300 feet. Lost since 1946, when it was intentionally destroyed by U.S. forces to prevent its technology from falling into Soviet hands, its rediscovery in 2013 provided invaluable insights. These unique vessels were designed to serve as underwater aircraft carriers, capable of carrying up to 3 seaplane bombers. Their mission was to quickly surface, launch their aircraft, and then submerge again before enemy forces could detect them. This design underscores Japan's innovative, yet ultimately desperate, wartime strategies, and the technological advancements of the era, the legacy of submarine shipwrecks. The German U-boats were a formidable threat on the high seas during World War II, tasked with attacking merchant ships carrying vital supplies to Allied forces. They would stalk their prey, sometimes in coordinated wolf packs, in the treacherous waters of the North Atlantic, or independently in geographically dispersed regions. When a U-boat spotted an enemy vessel, it would often shadow it for days, calling for reinforcements for a more effective attack. They used deck guns and torpedoes, attacking either on the surface or submerged. On August 24, 2016, the wreck of the U-576 was observed for the first time in over 72 years. Expeditions are still investigating these wrecks, asking poignant questions. Did the crew drown or asphyxiate, trapped inside? Or did some escape through open hatches as the submarine sank? These questions persist, turning these underwater graves into ongoing mysteries. The mystery of the Amber Room, often called the 8th wonder of the world. The Amber Room was an exquisite chamber crafted from several tons of amber and adorned with jewels. Originally a gift to Peter the Great in 1716, celebrating peace between Russia and Prussia, its history took a tragic turn during World War II. It was looted by the Nazis during their invasion of the Soviet Union on June 22, 1941, as part of Operation Barbarossa. The amber panels were carefully packed into boxes and then simply vanished in the final months of the war. Despite a meticulous replica being completed in 2003, the original Amber Room remains one of history's most enduring and captivating mysteries, its whereabouts unknown to this day, fueling the imagination of historians and treasure hunters alike. The legend of the Nazi gold train. Tales of hidden Nazi treasure abound, but few are as captivating as the legend of the gold train in Poland. Following the Nazis' systematic looting of occupied territories, palaces, art galleries, museums, and Jewish families, they amassed immense wealth. After their defeat, Allied forces uncovered stashes of valuables, from gold bars to priceless art. In 1944, US soldiers in Austria found thousands of boxes filled with gold, silver, jewels, cash, and art stolen from Hungarian Jews. But the true enigma centers on the picturesque Polish town of Wałbrzych. Local legend claims a group of German workers witnessed a treasure being transported into tunnels within the nearby Owl Mountains. This legendary train was said to carry around 300 tons of gold, silver, jewels, artwork, and other valuables, possibly even pieces of the famous Amber Room. As the Red Army advanced, the Nazis supposedly loaded an armored train with these treasures, only for it to disappear into one of the tunnels beneath Książ Castle. Despite numerous investigations after 1945, including efforts by the Polish army, no concrete evidence of a Nazi gold-laden train has ever been found, yet the legend persists, captivating the public and fueling treasure hunters worldwide. Beyond the grand battles, World War II was also a stage for bizarre incidents, extraordinary individuals, and unexpected twists of fate. The battle where Americans and Germans fought together. This sounds impossible, right? But it happened. The battle for Itter Castle, fought on May 5, 1945, just 5 days after Hitler's death, saw an unprecedented alliance. Prisoners, mostly prominent French politicians and generals, including famous tennis player Jean Barotra, managed to expel their German guards and seize their weapons. When the castle came under attack by Waffen-SS forces, American soldiers, deserting Wehrmacht soldiers, French prisoners, and members of the Austrian resistance fought side by side to defend it. This highly unusual coalition ultimately secured a victory against the SS when reinforcements arrived. It's an extraordinary and truly bizarre footnote in military history, highlighting the chaotic and unpredictable final days of the war, the last soldier to surrender, 29 years later. Imagine a soldier still fighting World War II in 1974. The last soldier to officially surrender during World War II was Japanese Imperial Army soldier Teruo Nakamura. A Taiwanese-born combatant, he became separated from his unit and survived in the jungles of Morotai Island, Indonesia, for almost 3 decades after the war officially ended. He lived by fishing and cultivating vegetables. When he was finally discovered in December 1974, he surrendered, still believing the war was ongoing. His story is a powerful testament to loyalty, isolation, and the profound psychological impact of prolonged conflict. The double agent honored by both sides. Meet Juan Pujol Garcia, a Spanish double agent who truly mastered the art of deception. Recruited by British intelligence, they codenamed him Garbo, recognizing his acting talent. He simultaneously worked for the Germans, who called him Arabelle. Pujol was instrumental in the success of D-Day, skillfully feeding false information to Germany that convinced their high command the Normandy invasion would be a diversion, with the main landing at Pas de Calais. As a result, the Germans reduced their defenses in the actual landing zone. The British lauded him as the best actor in the world, and his exceptional work earned him medals from both his true patrons, the British MBE, and his unwitting German employers, the Iron Cross. His audacious deception was a pivotal factor in the Allied victory, the Ghost Army. This wasn't your typical fighting unit. They had artillery that couldn't fire, tanks that couldn't move, and soldiers who were better with paintbrushes than actual weapons. Yet, this top-secret US unit, formerly known as the 23rd Headquarters Special Troops and the 31st 33rd Special Signal Company, colloquially known as the Ghost Army, helped win World War II by performing elaborate deceptions that completely confused the German Nazi forces about the location and size of Allied forces. Comprised of only 1,100 artists, designers, sound engineers, actors, publicists, and architects, they are credited with saving thousands of American lives and were awarded one of the country's highest civilian honors. The Ghost Army could simulate a force up to 30 times its actual size, often operating within a quarter mile of the enemy lines. They employed inflatable rubber tanks, jeeps, trucks, artillery, and even planes, meticulously painted to appear realistic for aerial reconnaissance. They also used fake radio conversations, mimicking the distinctive styles of operators, and played pre-recorded sounds of military exercises and movements through giant loudspeakers audible up to 15 miles away. Inspired by British deception tactics in North Africa, the Ghost Army carried out over 20 missions across Europe between 1944 and 1945, from D-Day to the Battle of the Bulge, proving that creativity and illusion were potent weapons in the fight. If these incredible stories are captivating you, show your support. Hit that like button and share this video with your friends and family who love history. What's the most surprising fact you've heard so far? Let us know in the comments below. And if you haven't already, make sure to subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications so you don't miss our next deep dive into history's greatest mysteries. The physical remnants of World War II continue to emerge from the ground, the sea, and forgotten archives, revealing surprising aspects of the conflict's enduring impact. Abandoned toxic base in Greenland. What the local Inuit population ironically call American flowers are, in fact, rusted, leaking gasoline containers scattered across the otherwise pristine landscapes of Greenland. These are remnants of a former U.S. Air Force post, established during World War II. Photographer Ken Bauer's project, American Flowers, documents this base, which also includes decaying cars, corroded barrels, and crumbling asbestos-laden buildings. This photographic documentary project aims to highlight the environmental destruction left behind by military activity and persuade the U.S. government to return and clean up the site, which was abandoned in 1947. At the height of the Cold War, the U.S. maintained about 50 military bases in Greenland. Many of these installations were simply left to deteriorate, posing a significant threat to the delicate ecosystem. One such base, known as Camp Century, was even built beneath the ice. As climate change continues to melt the ice, there's growing concern that dangerous pollutants and radioactive coolants, originally intended to remain buried indefinitely, will soon be exposed. The downed Douglas SBD Dauntless, a true workhorse of the Pacific, a Douglas SBD-5, Dauntless dive bomber that crashed 80 years ago, plunging 100 feet to the bottom of Lake Michigan, is currently undergoing restoration in Pensacola. This particular aircraft, instrumental in securing victory during the Battle of Midway in 1942 by helping to sink 4 Japanese ships, is receiving a full restoration sponsored by the National World War II Museum in New Orleans. It's the third Dauntless dive bomber recovered from Lake Michigan for this purpose. Despite decades underwater, covered in zebra mussels and algae, the aircraft was remarkably intact, though its wings and propeller showed significant twisting from the impact. Officials anticipate the restoration process will take several years, but it's a vital effort not only to preserve a piece of history, but also to honor the brave pilots who flew these formidable aircraft in combat, famous for their structural integrity that allowed pilots to dive at steep, almost 80-degree angles. A Panther tank in a basement. In a truly astounding discovery, German authorities had to call in the military to remove a Panther tank, an anti-aircraft gun, and a torpedo from the basement of an 84-year-old man's home in Heikendorf. This remarkable find occurred in 2015. Prosecutors and defense lawyers are still negotiating possible penalties for the man, which could include a suspended sentence and a hefty fine of up to 500,000 euros. The accused also needs to find new homes for these monumental items. According to his lawyer, an American museum has already expressed interest in acquiring the Panther tank, which many historians consider one of the most efficient vehicles deployed by Germany during World War II. Local media reports indicate that other German collectors have also contacted the accused regarding additional items like assault rifles and pistols. Recovering the Panther tank was no small feat. It took approximately 20 soldiers over 9 hours to extract the trackless tank from the residential property and carefully load it onto a low loader for transport. Authorities had been tipped off by officials in Berlin who had previously searched the property for stolen Nazi art. The Enigma machine's secrets. The Enigma machine was a remarkable encryption device employed by the Germans to send coded communications during World War II. This machine had the capacity to encode messages in billions of different configurations, making it incredibly difficult for other nations to decipher German codes throughout the conflict. For a significant period, the code seemed virtually unbreakable. However, brilliant minds like Alan Turing and other cryptographers at Bletchley Park in Buckinghamshire exploited certain flaws in the Enigma's implementation and managed to gain access to German codebooks. This breakthrough allowed them to develop the bomb machine, which played a crucial role in deciphering some of the most complex versions of Enigma. Historians widely assert that cracking the Enigma code represented one of the Allied powers' most profound and vital victories during World War II. The intelligence gained by deciphering German communications enabled the Allies to thwart countless enemy attacks. To maintain the secrecy of their intercepts and avoid raising Nazi suspicions, the Allies sometimes had to allow certain attacks to occur, even when they had the means to prevent them. This decision, though agonizing, was deemed necessary to protect the invaluable source of information and ensure long-term strategic advantage. Fishing a MP40. In a story that sounds almost too good to be true, a group of fishermen in the Czech Republic literally fished out a piece of WWII history. They managed to snag a metal object in their line, which turned out to be an MP40 machine gun, a favorite weapon of the Nazi army. What was truly astonishing was its condition. After decades submerged, the weapon was in perfect working order. It was immediately taken to a local armory, where, after a thorough cleaning, it was brought back to life, capable of being used at any moment. Today, this unique specimen is displayed in a World War II museum in Prague, showcased as the only one of these weapons that, after being buried for decades, is still capable of combat. Unexploded aerial bombs. For decades, hundreds of enormous air-to-ground bombs have been discovered unexploded, many of them still active and in locations that pose a terrible risk to tens, even hundreds of lives. There are emblematic cases, such as a 2,000-pound bomb found in the middle of an apartment building in Frankfurt. It was discovered during renovation work and led to the evacuation of nearly 70,000 people who had to wait for authorities to eliminate the danger. In another case in Belarus, a German bomb of almost 3,000 pounds was found buried in what was previously a marginal zone. This impact-detonated bomb was still active and required many hours of work to deactivate. It's estimated that today, at least 300 large bombs are still scattered across Europe, many of them still representing a significant risk to human life. The T-34 at the bottom of a lake. Many armored vehicles were destroyed during the war, mainly by artillery charges or air attacks. However, many others strangely ended up in truly unexpected places. One such case is a Russian T-34 tank located at the bottom of a river. The discovery was practically by chance, but after finding the large object at the bottom of this river, authorities mobilized the necessary equipment to lift nearly 30 tons of iron and bring this enormous tank back to the surface. The T-34 was by far the most famous and practical armored vehicle of the Russian army, and its large-scale use contributed to the defeat of the Nazis, especially when the Siberian winter set in. This historical fact made recovering the tank a priority, a tank that survived the war and nearly 30 years underwater. The Kitty Hawk P-40 in the Sahara. During World War II, over 30,000 aircraft, both Allied and Axis, were shot down, most ending up practically pulverized. However, some managed to survive to be found much later. But few cases have been as extreme as that of a Kitty Hawk P-40. This American-made aircraft, known for its enormous maneuverability and firepower, was shot down in the middle of the Sahara Desert, where it remained for over 70 years before being found. What's surprising is that when found, the plane was practically intact. In fact, many of its instruments were still functional, and only external damage from the attack that brought it down and dents generated by the impact with the sand were observed. Something else that caught the attention of its discoverers was that they also found remains of what appeared to be an improvised camp, which could indicate that the pilot survived the accident. Something that is, of course, almost impossible to prove. World War II was a period of immense human drama, giving rise to stories of resilience, oddities, and lasting impact on people and places. The Bomber and the Bear. Did you know a bear enlisted in the Polish army? In 1942, members of the 35 22nd Company of the 2nd Polish Army Corps, evacuated from the Soviet Union to Iran, made a highly unusual recruitment: a Syrian brown bear cub. The cub was named Wojtek and was formally enlisted as a private in the company, enjoying 1 or 2 beers alongside his human friends after a day's work. He even participated in the Italian campaign between 1943 and 1944, notably helping to carry artillery shells for the troops. After the war, Wojtek was honorably discharged and lived out his final days peacefully at the Edinburgh Zoo in Scotland. His story is a heartwarming and bizarre testament to the unique bonds formed during wartime. The D-Day dummy paratroopers. During the D-Day landings, the Allies employed a remarkably clever stratagem to deceive German defenders about the true locations of airborne drops. They parachuted some 400 burlap dummies, ingeniously equipped with a noise generator that mimicked the sound of a shotgun. These parafollies successfully achieved their objective of deceiving the enemy, creating the illusion of large-scale paratrooper landings in false locations and diverting German attention from the actual D-Day beaches. This tactic highlights the crucial role of tactical deception in the success of such a massive operation, proving that sometimes even dummies can play a crucial role in victory. The German army's surprising lack of motorization. Despite popular propaganda, the Third Reich's army in 1939 was far from being a fully modern, mechanized force. In reality, Germany was one of the least automobilized societies in the Western world, even with its extensive autobahns and Mercedes' racing victories. At the outbreak of war, there was only one motor vehicle for every 47 people in Germany, compared to 14 in the UK, 8 in France, and a mere 4 in the United States. The German army was highly dependent on railways, horses, carriages, and the legs of its soldiers for movement. On May 10, 1940, when the Third Reich attacked, only 16 of its 135 divisions were mechanized. This detail challenges the common narrative of an overwhelming technological superiority from the outset of the war and underscores the immense logistical challenges faced by the Wehrmacht. Helena Bonham Carter's grandmother on the Gestapo list. The famous actress Helena Bonham Carter has an intriguing link to World War II. Her grandmother, Violet Bonham Carter, a prominent British citizen and daughter of former Prime Minister Herbert Henry Asquith, was an outspoken critic of the Nazi regime. She infuriated the German leadership of the Third Reich when she published the pamphlet Child Victims of the New Germany, a protest against Nazi atrocities. As a result, the Gestapo placed her on a blacklist, alongside Winston Churchill, writers H.G. Wells and Virginia Woolf, and actor Noel Coward, to settle accounts in case Germany ever occupied the British Isles. It's a fascinating connection that highlights the personal risks taken by individuals who opposed tyranny. The city that pretended to be Swiss, Constance, a German city located on the shores of Lake Constance, shares its border with nearby Austria and Switzerland, a country that remained neutral during the war. During the conflict, the Allies had valid reasons to bomb Constance, as it housed 3 companies that manufactured military equipment for the Third Reich. However, the residents, desperate to avoid bombing, devised a clever ruse. They simply left their lights on at night. During the war, nearly all cities would black out at night to avoid aiding bombers. In contrast, the people of Constance seemed to convey, "We don't mind leaving the lights on because we're in Switzerland." This simple yet brilliant deception successfully convinced Allied pilots that they were flying over neutral territory, saving the city from destruction. Boris Lazarev, the mummified pilot. Getting physical remains from this great conflict is undoubtedly exceptional and does not happen every day. Imagine finding a soldier fallen in battle, technically mummified. This is how Boris Lazarev, a Russian fighter pilot, was found. He was shot down by one of the largest combat attacks of the German Air Force. The incredible part is that when he plunged, Boris ended up sinking into a lake of water, gasoline, and oil that remained inert for almost 50 years, until he was found during a routine excavation. In addition to the surprisingly preserved body, personal effects, decorations, and even a handmade knife with his name carved on it were found. Although many requested to preserve Boris's corpse in this state, the authorities decided to bury him with military honors, just as would have been done during the war. The estranged Himmler. In January 1945, Heinrich Himmler, the incredibly powerful head of the German SS, was placed in command of the Vistula Army Group, a force of 500,000 soldiers, with the mission of defending Berlin from the advancing Soviets. Himmler, however, was spectacularly out of his depth. He worked only a few hours a day, never visited his units, and even included a personal masseur in his retinue, due to the immense stress of defending Berlin. After 2 months in command, he failed to organize any counterattacks and preferred to retreat to the Hohenlichen Sanatorium to recover from the experience. From there, he attempted to negotiate with the Allies, but was rejected. He was eventually captured while fleeing and ingested the cyanide pill he always carried with him, ending his life. His utter failure highlights the deteriorating state of the Nazi leadership in the final months of the war. The Super German Cannon. The German 5.3 cannon never became a significant threat to the Allies, but it could have been lethal if the Germans had had more time for its development. On paper, it was a 130-meter-long artillery piece, capable of firing a projectile 160 kilometers away, theoretically able to hit targets in England from the French coast. Its main challenge was basic physics, propelling a projectile that far required an explosion that would destroy the weapon itself. However, German engineers were reportedly working on a solution involving multiple, individually smaller explosions. The German supercannon project had to be abandoned when the Allies liberated France in 1944, preventing a potentially devastating new weapon from coming online: the French SS Brigade. When France was occupied by Germany, thousands of French people joined the resistance against the occupiers. However, many others chose to collaborate and fought with the German army on the Eastern Front. After France was liberated by the Allies in 1944, many French supporters of the Third Reich emigrated eastward and offered to fight for Germany. Already suffering from a shortage of recruits, the Third Reich accepted their collaboration and formed the Waffen-SS Charlemagne Grenadier Brigade, a unit made up entirely of Frenchmen that eventually numbered 11,000 soldiers. By April 1945, only about 700 remained, and only 60 saw the end of the war, a stark reminder of the complex and often tragic choices individuals made during the conflict. From the bottom of the ocean to forgotten basements, and from grand deceptions to individual acts of survival, the Second World War continues to yield incredible discoveries and stories that reshape our understanding of this pivotal period in history. These findings remind us that even after decades, the past still holds secrets, and the human spirit, in all its complexity, found extraordinary ways to endure. We've covered everything from the shocking Battle of Attu, the only land battle fought between US and Japanese forces on American soil in the Aleutian Islands, to the revelation that the French armed forces actually had more tanks, artillery pieces, and soldiers than Germany in May 1940, a fact that rewrites common assumptions about the early war. We've seen how the UK, despite perceptions, experienced the least rationing in Europe during the war, and how 1,300 French sailors died in a single Allied attack when the British shelled the French fleet at Mers el-Kebir to prevent it from falling into German hands. Even the seemingly minor detail of German transport being minimal, with only one vehicle per 47 people at the war's outbreak, highlights the sheer scale of the logistical challenges they faced. Perhaps one of the most chilling facts is that 57,000 French civilians died from Allied bombs, almost as many as the 65,000 British civilians killed by German bombs. This grim statistic underscores the devastating collateral damage of modern warfare, often leaving mixed feelings about liberation. The story of the uranium of the Third Reich that disappeared, with a cube of uranium from Hitler's attempted reactor resurfacing years later, raises questions about other lost pieces of the Nazi nuclear program. And while we explored the mysterious death of Tsar Boris III of Bulgaria after meeting with Hitler, we also saw the baffling choice of Breton separatists to join both sides of the conflict, some collaborating with Germans, others joining the French resistance. Finally, we reflected on the sheer scale of loss. Over 8.8 to 10.7 million Soviet soldiers died fighting the Axis, nearly twice the 5.5 million German combat deaths, and almost 10 times the combined military fatalities of the US and UK. These numbers, along with the incredibly low 37% return rate for British aircrew who survived their 30 combat missions, paint a stark picture of the immense human cost. Even the massacre of 9 German and Italian POWs by a drunken US soldier in a Utah camp reminds us that even within the Allied ranks, strange and tragic events unfolded. These findings remind us that history is not static. It's a living narrative, constantly revealing new facets and challenging old assumptions. We hope you've enjoyed this journey through some of the most fascinating and bizarre discoveries of World War II. Which case was your favorite? The Ghost Army, the Bear Soldier, or maybe the hidden cars in Paris? Tell us your thoughts in the comments section. Your engagement helps us bring more untold stories to light. Don't forget to like this video if you found it intriguing, and share it with fellow history enthusiasts. If you're new here, subscribe to our channel for more captivating content like this. Remember, people who do not know their history are doomed to repeat it. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.